My name is Jenna, and I'm 35. Have you ever felt like a stranger in your own family? Last week, my father, Eris Thorne, celebrated his retirement after 30 years as the headmaster of Philadelphia's most prestigious academy. And it was there, in front of 200 guests, that my stepmother, Catherine, asked me to give up my seat at the main table. The reason? I'm just a teacher. And my seat was meant for her daughter, Brooke, a brilliant corporate lawyer who, that same evening, took my position on the family's education foundation. I stood to the side, humiliated and ready to leave. But then my husband, Alex, the quietest, most modest man I know, stood up from our table in the far corner of the room. He didn't say a word. He just adjusted his inexpensive tie and walked confidently toward the stage, taking the microphone from the MC. What he said next silenced the entire room. In less than a minute, his words wiped the smug smiles off my stepmother's and stepsister's faces. I'll never forget the look on my father's face. Or the clink of the glass that fell from Catherine's hand. Let me take you back to that evening. We were in the ballroom of the Bellevue Hotel, and the air seemed to buzz with the importance of the moment. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, golden light on dozens of round tables covered with snow-white tablecloths. In the center of each table stood an arrangement of white orchids, which I was sure cost more than my monthly grocery budget. This wasn't just a retirement party. It was a farewell performance, the grand finale of Dr. Eris Thorne's career. And he had made sure that every influential person from the world of education was in the room to give him a standing ovation. My husband, Alex, and I were a little late. Unexpected traffic downtown had cost us an extra 20 minutes. I quickly smoothed down my emerald silk dress. It wasn't new, but it was probably the most elegant thing in my wardrobe. Alex looked as dapper as ever in his simple black suit, but I noticed he kept glancing at his phone a little too often. Is everything okay at work? I asked quietly as we entered the brightly lit hall. Yes, just tying up some loose ends, he replied, giving my hand a reassuring squeeze. Don't worry. The hall was noisy and crowded with at least 200 people, members of the board of trustees, headmasters from other academies, generous patrons, and even reporters from education publications. A photographer was already working near the stage, and above it hung a huge banner that read, "In honor of Eris Thorne. 30 years of excellence in education." My father stood at the entrance, greeting guests. He wore a flawless Tom Ford suit that I was sure cost as much as 3 of my teaching salaries. Beside him stood Catherine, his wife of the last 4 years. She wore an elegant black designer dress and large emerald earrings that sparkled delicately with her every move. They looked like a couple from the cover of a high-end magazine. Jenna. My father's voice boomed proprietarily, though his smile was strained. You made it after all. Of course, Dad. I couldn't miss such an important evening. Catherine's gaze swept over my dress with poorly concealed disdain. How nice of you to find the time. Brooke has been here for over an hour, networking with the board members. Brooke is her daughter. The one who made it. We got stuck in terrible traffic. I tried to explain. No need for excuses, Catherine interrupted, her tone soft but firm. Come, I'll show you to your table. As we walked through the crowd, I noticed a local TV crew setting up cameras near the stage. It seemed my father wanted his announcement to be officially recorded. Alex's phone vibrated again. He glanced at the screen, his face remaining completely impassive. Something about this evening felt wrong. A certain falseness in Catherine's constant smile. The way my father carefully avoided my gaze. The way Alex kept his phone close, as if waiting for an important signal. I didn't yet know that I was about to be erased from my own family's history. The place cards on the head table gleamed like tiny sentences. I scanned them once, twice, a third time. My heart sank deeper with each pass. Eris Thorne, Catherine Thorne, Brooke, the chairman of the board, major patrons, but not Jenna Thorne. There must be some mistake with the seating, I said, trying to keep my voice light and casual. Catherine appeared behind me. Her smile was as sharp as a shard of ice. Oh, darling, didn't Eris tell you? We had to make a few last-minute changes. You understand, space is limited. I looked at the head table. 8 chairs, 7 place cards. And one empty seat, right next to Brooke, who was already sitting there, chatting animatedly with the chairman of the board, David Mitchell. But I'm his daughter, I said softly. Of course, you are, dear, Catherine smiled sweetly. Your table is number 8, over there. She waved a hand toward the far corner of the room, where other teachers were seated at a table almost hidden by a pillar. Isn't that lovely? You'll all have so much to talk about. Alex's jaw tightened beside me. This is a night in her father's honor. And we're so glad you could both make it, Catherine replied graciously, already turning to her daughter. Brooke, sweetie, do tell Mr. Mitchell about your latest case. Brooke looked up, a perfectly rehearsed smile on her face. Oh, Jenna, I didn't even see you there. You look so nice. Her gaze flickered over my emerald dress. We were just telling everyone about my promotion. I made senior associate. The youngest in the firm's history. Her words hit their mark. I stood there, staring at the empty seat at the table that should have been mine. Just then, my father walked over, adjusting his bow tie. Dad, why isn't my name at the table? He cleared his throat uncomfortably. Catherine thought it would be better for business if Brooke sat here. She has some useful connections that could help the foundation. You understand, don't you? Nothing personal, just business. Just business. My own father called my humiliation a business decision. Alex stepped forward. His voice was calm, but there was a steel edge to it. So where, exactly, are we sitting? Table 8 will be fine, my father said, studiously avoiding my gaze. There are many of your colleagues there, respected educators. Respected educators was a polite way of saying second-class guests. I heard Brooke laugh as she touched David Mitchell's arm. She was sitting in my place, in the center of attention, and no one seemed to mind. Alex's phone vibrated again. He glanced at it, a strange, fleeting expression on his face. Was it satisfaction? Let's go, I whispered, pulling his sleeve. Let's just go to our table. But I couldn't shake the humiliating feeling of having just been officially demoted in my own family. Table number 8 felt like exile. As we walked across the hall, I could hear Catherine's voice floating effortlessly above the music. Every word she spoke was honed for maximum effect. This is Brooke, my daughter, she announced to a group of patrons. A senior associate at Sterling and Reed. She just won a multi-million-dollar case for the Peterson Foundation. Then came a short but meaningful pause. Oh, and over there, at the back of the room, is Eris's daughter, Jenna. She teaches at P.S. 118, a public school. The way she said public made it sound like a diagnosis. Alex's hand found mine under the cheap polyester tablecloth of table number 8, a world away from the silk finery of the head table. 5 other teachers sat around us. They all looked a bit out of place in their best clothes, perfectly aware they occupied the cheapest seats at this celebration of a life. You teach 3rd grade, right? Asked Mrs. Davis, a teacher from another school. I heard you were named Teacher of the Year last year. Yes, that's right, I replied, forcing a smile. That's amazing, she said. But we both knew what was behind that phrase. Amazing, but not enough to sit at the head table. From the other end of the room, Brooke's confident voice carried, discussing the intricacies of tax law with someone from the city administration. Catherine kept pointing proudly in her direction. I noticed my father introduce Brooke to a dozen different people in 15 minutes. He walked past our table twice without even a glance in our direction. Alex squeezed my hand tighter. His phone momentarily lit up his face, and I managed to read the message on the screen. Confirmation received. Awaiting your signal. What's that? I whispered. Just work, he said, but there was something new in his voice. How are you? I'm fine, I lied. No, you're not, his warm brown eyes met mine. And you don't have to be. A fresh burst of laughter came from the head table. Now Catherine was loudly telling someone, for everyone to hear, about how Brooke had graduated from Yale Law School. We are so proud of her accomplishments. It takes real drive to reach such heights. Real drive, I repeated to myself. Not like teaching 8-year-olds to read. Mrs. Davis touched my arm sympathetically. Family nights are tough. I just nodded, watching my father beam as Brooke showed him something on her phone. Probably another bonus. I had 28 handmade cards from my students in my desk drawer. But you couldn't turn those into useful connections. Alex quickly typed something on his phone and put it away. Whatever you're planning, I whispered, don't. It's not worth it. He kissed my temple. You are. Always. The lights in the hall dimmed. My father, Dr. Eris Thorne, walked onto the stage and tapped the microphone with familiar confidence. 200 pairs of eyes focused on him. Thank you all for sharing this evening with us, he began in the powerful headmaster's voice I had so admired as a child. As I close this chapter of my life, I feel immense gratitude. He thanked the board of trustees, his colleagues, the patrons. And then he moved on to the personal part. My heart beat faster. I've been blessed with a wonderful family, he said, gesturing to the head table. My beautiful wife, Catherine, my rock for the past 4 years. And I am especially proud to see Brooke here tonight, Catherine's daughter, whom I have gladly accepted as my own. Accepted as my own. The words felt like a gunshot. Brooke has just become a senior associate at Sterling and Reed, the youngest in the company's history, my father continued. Yale Law, summa cum laude. She embodies everything we strive for in education: ambition, excellence, the desire to be the best in her field. The room erupted in applause. Brooke stood gracefully and waved, her dress shining in the spotlight. I waited. I was still waiting. Come on, now he'll say. Family is the most important thing, my father said, moving on to thank the hotel staff. And that was it. His other daughter, the one who had followed in his footsteps, didn't even warrant a mention. 30 years in education, and he couldn't find the courage to acknowledge his teacher daughter. Mrs. Davis touched my arm sympathetically. I should have expected it, I finished, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. But a wave of memories washed over me. How my father missed my college graduation for a cruise Catherine had planned. How he'd forgotten my birthday 2 years in a row. That Christmas dinner where everyone talked endlessly about Brooke's promotion, while my Teacher of the Year award might as well have not existed. You know what? Alex said suddenly, a strange, unfamiliar note in his voice. I just remembered something. What? When you won that award, you were so happy you called him right away. He paused, looking me straight in the eye. He said he'd call you back. Did he? I didn't need to answer. My silence said it all. No. He never called back. And from the stage, my father's charming voice continued, telling some anecdote from his career. The room laughed. He was the perfect leader, the perfect speaker, the perfect father to everyone but me. Alex's phone came to life again. He read the message, and for the first time that evening, a real, confident smile appeared on his face. What is it? I asked. Just a reminder of why I married a teacher, he replied. And why that's far more important than anyone here can imagine. Now, get ready. Because the next thing my father said from the stage wasn't just another jab. It was an announcement that turned everything I knew about my family and my place in it upside down. My father approached the microphone again. He had that look on his face I knew so well, the one for important family announcements. And now, for the main event of the evening, he said, and the room fell silent. As many of you know, the Thorne Family Education Foundation recently received a $5 million donation from Edutech Solutions Corporation. An impressed whisper went through the room. $5 million was a serious sum, even for this well-heeled crowd. This foundation, my father continued, will support future leaders in education. And tonight, I am pleased to announce who will take my place on the Foundation's board of directors upon my retirement. My breath caught in my throat. This was it. The board seat he had promised me 3 years ago when the Foundation was created. When I retire, Jenna, you will carry on our work, he had told me. Your experience as a teacher will be invaluable. After much consideration, my father said, his voice filled with pride, I am happy to announce that my successor on the board of directors will be Brooke. The room erupted in applause. Brooke stood up, theatrically adjusting her dress, and waved to the crowd as if she'd just won an Oscar. Catherine beamed, dabbing a handkerchief at the corners of her eyes. And I sat there, stunned, unable to believe what had just happened. 3 years of preparation. 2 years of researching scholarship programs. Countless hours spent developing proposals. All of it was erased in an instant. Brooke will bring a unique experience to the Foundation's work, my father continued from the stage. Her legal expertise and business connections will help us reach a new level. Legal expertise for a foundation created to help teachers. Alex squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. That seat should have been yours. I know, I whispered. But it wasn't about the position. This foundation was supposed to distribute grants to hundreds of teachers. Teachers just like me. And Brooke, who had never spent a day in a classroom, would now decide their fate. Furthermore, my father added, Brooke will work closely with our main sponsor, Edutech Solutions, to ensure their vision aligns with our goals. Their vision, I thought. Not the vision of educators, not the needs of teachers, but the vision of a corporation. Mrs. Davis beside me gasped softly. But you're a real teacher. You know what we actually need. I knew. And that was precisely why I wasn't chosen. At that moment, Alex stood up abruptly. Excuse me. Where are you going? I need to make a call, his voice had taken on a hard, steely edge. This changes the game. As he walked away, phone already pressed to his ear, I watched Brooke accept congratulations. My legacy had become her stepping stone. And the full weight of the loss hit me as the chairman of the board, David Mitchell, stood up to elaborate on the new position. The board member, he explained, will oversee the distribution of nearly $500,000 a year in grants for teachers. They will determine who receives funding and, in essence, shape the future of education in our state. $500,000 a year for teachers who desperately needed help. I thought of Mrs. Evans from my school, who worked weekends to buy supplies for her class. Of Mr. Harris, who started a fundraiser online to buy equipment for special needs children. Of the $200 I spent out of my own pocket every month on books. This position could have changed everything. I've already prepared a comprehensive proposal, Brooke's voice reached me. She was speaking loudly, for everyone at her table to hear. With a focus on leadership development and career advancement in administration. Career advancement, I thought. Not school supplies, not retaining good teachers, not what the children actually needed. My phone vibrated. A message from Alex. Trust me. Something is about to happen. I looked around the room, but I couldn't find him in the crowd. Where could he have gone? My thoughts were interrupted by Catherine's voice, addressed to the guests at a nearby table but spoken loud enough for me to hear. Brooke has already identified several corporate partnership opportunities. This is real innovation, not just another bake sale. A bake sale? I whispered. Is that how she sees our work? 2 years, I said quietly to Mrs. Davis. I spent 2 years researching teacher issues, developing support programs, creating strategies. We know, she replied softly. We all know how much you've done for our community. But that knowledge was worthless here. Not in this room, where success was measured by the size of bonuses and the number of useful connections. My father was at the microphone again. Brooke will bring a fresh, unbiased perspective to the problems of education. Sometimes it takes an outsider to see what the professionals miss. An outsider, I thought. After 30 years in the field, he seriously believed a lawyer could help teachers better than another teacher. The phone came to life again. A new message from Alex. Watch David Mitchell closely. I looked at the head table. David Mitchell was reading something on his phone, and his expression was changing before my eyes. He looked up and started scanning the room for someone. Before we continue, he said unexpectedly, standing up, I'd like to clarify something about our corporate sponsors. The room fell silent. Catherine looked puzzled. Brooke's smile faltered. And I realized that somewhere in this room, my husband had just made his move. I couldn't just sit in the corner and watch myself be written out of my own life anymore. I stood up and, surprising myself with my own resolve, walked straight to the head table. Dad, we need to talk. The conversations at the table stopped. All 7 of them looked at me. Not now, Jenna, his voice had that headmaster's tone that once made me freeze. No, right now. This can't wait. You're making a scene, Catherine hissed, her voice as cold as ice. Am I? I thought we were honoring education tonight, I said in the calm, steady voice I usually used with difficult parents. That board seat was promised to me 3 years ago. Circumstances change, my father replied, avoiding my gaze. What circumstances? My Teacher of the Year award? My master's degree? My 10 years of classroom experience? Brooke let out a cold, tinkling laugh. Jenna, it takes more than good intentions to run a multi-million-dollar foundation. Exactly. It takes someone with real-world experience, Catherine chimed in. Real-world experience? The words came out sharper than I'd intended. I teach 28 8-year-olds every day. I buy them pencils and notebooks with my own salary. I work 60 hours a week for $40,000 a year. It doesn't get more real than that. Guests at the neighboring table started to turn around, some already filming the scene on their phones. This is undignified, my father hissed. Leave now. Undignified? I raised my voice. What's undignified is handing over an education foundation to someone who knows nothing about education. Security. Catherine called out loudly. 2 guards started walking toward us, and the photographer didn't miss a single shot. This was it. The moment I became the daughter who made a scene at her father's celebration. I'm leaving, I said, backing away. But let everyone here know that this man's legacy is not education, but empty words. Out. My father's face turned red. You are no longer welcome here. His words sounded like a final judgment. As the guards approached, a calm, confident voice cut through the tension. That won't be necessary. Alex appeared beside me as if from thin air. He addressed the guards, we're leaving. But first, Heiress Thorne, I have just one question for you. My father glared at him. What now? You know who the actual CEO of your main sponsor, Edutech Solutions, is? Some tech guy. What does it matter? Curious. Very curious, Alex's smile was faint but sharp as a razor. Shall we go, Jenna? Something in his tone silenced everyone. The guards walked beside us as we crossed the room under the gaze of 200 guests. Someone whispered, is that his real daughter? Another guest, unabashed, filmed the whole thing. You're embarrassing our family. Catherine yelled at my back. This is what happens when people don't know their place. I stopped and turned. The room held its breath. My place? Some people are made for great things, Brooke added, standing up. Her voice was as confident as a prosecutor's in court. And others, for simpler things. There's no shame in being ordinary, Jenna. Ordinary. The word hung in the air like a final verdict. Teaching is noble, Catherine continued with a fake smile. But let's be honest, anyone can teach elementary school. But to succeed in law, that takes real talent. Anyone can teach. I thought of Jake, the boy with dyslexia who, thanks to me, fell in love with books for the first time. Of Emily, who overcame her shyness in my class and started to speak up. Of the sleepless nights, the courses in child psychology, the endless patience required to find the key to each child. You're right, I said quietly. Anyone can stand in front of a class. But not everyone can teach. That's the difference. My father shot up from his seat. Security, get them out. Now. Eris, David Mitchell intervened. Maybe you shouldn't. This is a family matter. Family matter, I thought. A guard approached and touched my elbow. Ma'am, I have to ask you to leave. Don't touch my wife. Alex's voice was still quiet, but now it had a steel edge. The guard immediately backed away. Or what? My father scoffed. You'll leave? Be my guest. The only news that matters tonight is about Brooke. Alex took out his phone and quickly typed something. You're absolutely right, Eris. The news about Brooke is very important. In fact, it's important to a lot of people. What do you mean? Catherine interjected. You'll see. Alex put his phone away. David, he addressed the chairman of the board, please check your email. I've just sent you something. David Mitchell, frowning, pulled out his phone. A moment later, his eyes widened in astonishment. What have you? My father began. I didn't start anything, I just sped up the inevitable, Alex replied calmly. Jenna, let's go. We don't need to be here for what's about to happen. As we walked toward the exit, I heard David Mitchell's anxious voice behind me, Eris, we need to talk. Immediately. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my father's bewildered face and the way the perfect mask of composure began to slip from Catherine's. We were almost at the doors when Alex suddenly stopped. You know, I've changed my mind. He turned and walked decisively back into the room. I had never seen him like this. My quiet, reserved husband, who always preferred to stay in the shadows. Alex, what are you doing? What I should have done the second they took your name off the table. He headed straight for the stage, taking the steps in a single bound. Excuse me, headmaster, Alex said into the microphone, his quiet voice echoing through the hall. Just one short question, and we'll leave. My father looked like he was about to explode. Get off the stage. One question. You mentioned that Edutech Solutions is your main sponsor. That's impressive. Do you know much about the company? What is this, an interrogation? Catherine interjected. Security. But David Mitchell raised a hand, stopping them. Let him speak, Eris. This is important. Alex continued calmly, addressing the entire room. Edutech Solutions specializes in technology for schools in underserved areas. He faltered for a second. They believe that every child deserves an equal chance. He had said we. This company actually has a very interesting story, Alex went on, as if just chatting with friends. It was founded 5 years ago by a man whose mother worked her whole life in a regular public school. She spent her own money on pencils, worked weekends for free, and never got the recognition she deserved. Sound familiar? The room was dead silent. Even the waiters had frozen. This founder, Alex continued, promised himself that as soon as he had the chance, he would support teachers in a real way. Not with empty speeches, but with real money and resources. Alex looked directly at my father. And this founder firmly believes that teachers like Jenna, the ones who stay after school, who see the potential in every child, who pour their whole soul into their work, deserve more than a table in the back corner of the room. What are you getting at? My father asked, his voice lacking its earlier confidence. I'm getting at the fact that the donation from Edutech Solutions comes with certain conditions, Alex replied. The company is very careful about who it trusts to manage its funds. David Mitchell was staring at his phone, his face growing more and more alarmed. Alex. I whispered, and at that moment, all the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. His endless conference calls from his home office. The stacks of education journals on his nightstand. The way he always knew exactly what my class needed. In the donation agreement, Alex continued in the same calm tone, there are very clear requirements about the kind of leader who should head the foundation. It's strange you didn't bother to read that clause. The color drained from my father's face. You can't be. Alex smiled. It wasn't a malicious smirk, just a statement of fact. A very curious assumption, headmaster. At that moment, David Mitchell stepped forward. Eris, we need to discuss the terms of this contract immediately, he said insistently. What other terms? Catherine shrieked, finally losing her composure. Alex took out his phone and began to read from the screen. Clause 7. 3. In managing the foundation, priority must be given to professionals with real classroom experience. Clause 7. 4. Board positions must reflect a diversity of pedagogical experience, with a preference for practicing teachers. He looked up. Shall I continue? Brooke let out a nervous laugh. This is some kind of joke. You don't actually think. I don't think anything, Alex cut her off gently. I'm simply quoting a legally binding document that the headmaster signed 6 weeks ago. My father snatched the phone from David Mitchell's hands and began to read frantically. His face turned white as a sheet. Furthermore, Alex added, Edutech Solutions reserves the right to withdraw all funding if these conditions are not met. It's all in the contract. You set us up, Catherine hissed. No, we offered you $5 million on very clear terms. You're the ones who decided you could just ignore them. Alex's voice remained impeccably professional. Weren't you ever curious who was really behind Edutech Solutions? You saw the money and decided the details didn't matter. At that moment, I noticed the company logo on the banner behind the stage. An open book with a rising sun. The exact same logo I had seen 100 times on Alex's laptop screensaver. How could I have not realized it sooner? It's a trap. Brooke jumped up, instinctively switching to lawyer mode. Not at all. It's contract law, Alex replied. Your specialty, as I recall. In that case, you'll surely appreciate Clause 12. 1. Any public announcement of a board appointment without the sponsor's approval is a direct breach of contract. A murmur went through the room. Dozens of phones were pointed at the stage. David Mitchell cleared his throat. Eris, as chairman of the board, I have to ask, did you show this contract to your lawyers before signing? Catherine said. Brooke looked at it. All eyes turned to Brooke. At that moment, she didn't look like a formidable lawyer, but a frightened child. I skimmed it. It seemed standard. Skimmed it? David Mitchell's voice was laced with ice. A $5 million contract, and you just skimmed it. Alex stepped away from the microphone. Mr. Mitchell, I believe your board now has a difficult decision to make about the foundation's leadership. We will await your call. As he walked toward me, the room exploded into chaos. David Mitchell was already calling for an emergency meeting of the trustees. Catherine was screaming at Brooke. My father stood as if turned to stone, staring at the contract in his hands as if he hoped it would simply disappear. And on the banner behind them, the Edutech Solutions logo seemed to shine a little brighter than before. Catherine's composure had completely vanished. She walked up to the stage and grabbed the microphone. This is all a sham, she declared loudly. This man has been leading us on. And Jenna, I'm sure, knew everything. Knew about what? I finally managed to speak. About the plan to have me insulted at my own father's party? About being called a disappointment to the family? But you are. Her politeness was gone. A teacher with a modest salary, in an old car. Do you have any idea how embarrassing it is for Brooke and me to constantly have to make excuses for you in our social circle? A gasp of astonishment swept through the room. Someone whispered in the silence, did she really just say that? And you? Catherine turned to Alex. Pretending to be some simpleton when you're actually. Actually what? Alex asked calmly. A successful man who loves his wife? Who is proud that she teaches children? Who considers her work more important than any business deal? Brooke snatched the microphone from her mother. This changes nothing. I have the qualifications. I have the connections. You don't have teaching experience, I said, stepping forward. Name one educational theory. One classroom management technique. One way to adapt material for a child with special needs. Brooke was silent. I thought so, I said. Experience doesn't matter when you have talent. Brooke finally found her voice. Some are born to lead. And others are just meant to teach. Just teach. There it was again. My father finally spoke. Jenna always lacked ambition. She was always content with little. I tried to steer her toward law, toward business, anywhere. But she chose this. This. 10 years of my dedicated work reduced to a disappointed this. You know what? I said, my voice echoing through the silent room. You're right. I chose this. I chose to wake up every day and make the world a better place. I chose to be someone children trust with their problems. I chose meaning over money. How noble, Catherine sneered. And how convenient that your husband's money allows you to play the saint without worrying about bills. The accusation hung in the air, poisoning everything. 200 people watched, holding their breath, as our family fell apart, recording every word on their phones. My wife, Alex said, his voice quiet but clear, has never taken a penny from Edutech Solutions. She doesn't even know about. He stopped himself. You know what? I think it's time everyone in this room learned who truly deserves respect. With those words, he walked confidently back to the stage. This time, no one dared to stop him. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a small announcement. Alex stood at the podium with a calm, unshakable confidence. The room fell into absolute silence. My name is Alex Thorne, he said into the microphone. Yes, I took my wife's last name when we married. She doesn't know this, but I did it to honor the only member of the Thorne family who actually understands what education is about. My breath caught. He had never told me why he chose to take my name. 5 years ago, I watched my wife cry because she had spent her entire salary on books for her students. That same night, she stayed up until 3 a.m. developing an individualized plan for every single child in her class. Alex's voice rang through the hall with deafening clarity. That's when I decided to create a company that would support teachers like her. Every one of you, Alex continued, his eyes sweeping the room, every headmaster, every lawyer, every successful person here, we all started with a simple teacher. With someone who saw potential in us. Who believed in us even when we didn't believe in ourselves. David Mitchell nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. But we forget them so easily, don't we? We achieve success, and suddenly those same teachers become inconvenient. Not prestigious enough for our head tables. That's demagoguery, Catherine weakly objected. No, Alex replied. It's the truth. Jenna has impacted more lives in 1 year of her work than most of us will in our entire careers. Her students write to her years later. Their parents thank her for changing their children's futures. But tonight, she was not good enough for your family. He took out his phone and projected a photo onto the large screen behind the stage. It was my classroom. The walls were covered with children's drawings and thank you letters. This is what real success looks like, his voice grew louder. This is what truly matters. And if Headmaster Thorne doesn't see that, if he puts connections above knowledge and prestige above purpose, then he doesn't deserve the support of Edutech Solutions. You can't withdraw funding over a personal squabble. Brooke shouted. Alex smiled faintly. I wasn't going to. I'm going to do it because of a misalignment of values. Clause 3. 2 of the contract. The sponsor reserves the right to redirect funds if the recipient fails to demonstrate a commitment to the principles of supporting practicing educators. Redirect? David Mitchell asked sharply. To where, exactly? Alex looked directly at me. For the first time all evening, his professional mask fell away, and I saw only love and pride in his eyes. to someone who truly deserves it. And perhaps I should introduce myself properly, Alex said, his voice filled with authority. My name is Alex Thorne, and I am the founder and CEO of Edutech Solutions. The room erupted. I heard gasps, exclamations, the screech of chairs being pushed back. The flashes of cameras were incessant, capturing the moment my father's empire began to crumble. That can't be, Catherine muttered, clutching the tablecloth. You're a nobody. You drive an old car. You shop at a regular supermarket. That's right, Alex agreed. Because I prefer to invest my money in education, not in status symbols. A revolutionary idea, isn't it? My father collapsed into his chair. His face was ashen. You've been lying to us. For 7 years. I never lied. You just never asked, Alex replied. You decided for yourselves that a man who supports his teacher wife couldn't possibly be successful. Your own prejudices blinded you. Just then, Brooke's phone rang. She answered automatically, and her face went pale. Yes, sir. I understand. She hung up, looking completely lost. That was the managing partner. Sterling and Reed wants to discuss the reputational risks to the firm. What? Catherine gasped. The live stream of this event already has 50,000 views, someone shouted from the audience. She's trending. David Mitchell stepped forward again. Alex, as chairman, I need to know your official intentions. Alex kept his eyes on my father. Effective immediately, Edutech Solutions is withdrawing all funding from the Thorne Family Education Foundation. You can't, my father roared. We have a contract. Which you breached the moment you announced Brooke's appointment without our consent. Your own lawyer daughter should have warned you about that. Alex looked at Brooke. Oh, right. The irony was killer. It was Brooke's incompetence that gave Alex the legal grounds to terminate the agreement. Furthermore, he continued, I am establishing a new foundation today. The Jenna Thorne Foundation for Excellence in Teaching. The same $5 million. But it will be run by real teachers. For real teachers. The first to applaud were the people at our table, Table 8. Then Table 7 joined in. A moment later, half the room was giving a standing ovation. All those ordinary people who had been seated at the very back. David, Alex addressed the chairman. I would be honored if you would lead this new foundation. We need someone with your reputation. David Mitchell looked first at my father, then at Alex. His decision was obvious. It would be my honor. This is robbery. Catherine screamed. We'll sue you. Please do, Alex replied calmly. I'm sure the headlines will be wonderful. Headmaster's wife calls teachers a disappointment. Very noble. My father slowly sank into his chair, his dignity shattered, his legacy destroyed in minutes. Jenna, he whispered. You've ruined everything. But I wasn't looking at him anymore. I was looking at my husband, the man who had just revealed himself to be my fiercest protector, my most loyal champion. Effective immediately, Alex announced, his voice like the strike of a judge's gavel, Edutech Solutions is withdrawing all funding from the Thorne Family Education Foundation. David Mitchell was already on the phone, calling an emergency meeting. Other board members huddled in a corner, whispering frantically. This is revenge. Brooke accused him, her voice trembling with rage. You're punishing a foundation that helps children because of a family feud. No, Alex corrected. I'm redirecting funds to those who truly need them. The contract clearly states, Edutech Solutions money must support practicing educators. Appointing someone with no educational background to a leadership position violates our core mission. She would have learned. Catherine cried out desperately. From whom? The teacher you just called a disappointment? Alex's tone was icy. From the daughter Headmaster Thorne didn't even mention in his speech. I saw comments scrolling on a guest's phone from the live stream. That's justice. Finally, someone put them in their place. This teacher deserves so much better. Heiress, David Mitchell interjected, his decision clear. Given the new circumstances, the board of directors must convene immediately. Brooks' appointment is, of course, rescinded. This is a conspiracy. Catherine yelled. You set this whole thing up. We didn't set up anything, I said, my voice firm and confident. You created this situation yourselves. With every insult, every dismissive word, every time you made me feel worthless. This is the result of your own actions. My father's shoulders slumped. In a single minute, he had gone from the celebrated hero of the evening to a man who had lost $5 million due to his own arrogance. Teachers deserve better, Alex finished. They deserve leaders who understand their work, value their contributions, and see them as professionals, not as disappointments. Please, my father said quietly, utterly defeated. This foundation, it helps hundreds of teachers. And it will continue to help them, Alex replied. Only now under a different name. And with leadership that actually respects teachers. The Jenna Thorne Foundation will serve the same community. But with dignity. A reporter pushed through to the stage. Mr. Thorne, was this personal? Alex thought for a moment. Let's just say, values matter. If you don't respect teachers, you have no right to manage their money. It's that simple. The guards who had tried to escort us out just minutes before now looked at Alex, confused, awaiting instructions. We're done here, he said. He approached the microphone one last time, and the room fell silent again. Before we leave, I have one more announcement. Today, we are establishing the Jenna Thorne Foundation for Excellence in Teaching. His voice was so full of pride that tears welled up in my eyes. $5 million that will go to supporting the educators who shape our future every day. The teachers at our table, table 8, were the first to their feet. Mrs. Davis was crying openly. A moment later, half the room was applauding them. This foundation will provide grants for school supplies, pay for professional development courses, and offer mental health support for teachers facing burnout. Alex looked directly at me. And it will be led by someone who truly understands the needs of educators. Because she is one of them. You want me to? I couldn't finish the sentence. If you'll accept, he said gently. I never told you about Edutech Solutions because I wanted you to love me, not for my resources. I know, I whispered. This is outrageous. Catherine's voice cracked. You can't just create a competing foundation. It's not competing, Alex corrected her. Your foundation ceased to exist the moment it lost its funding. This is its replacement. David Mitchell stepped forward. Speaking of which, those board members who truly care about education would be honored to serve under Mrs. Thorne's leadership. Furthermore, Alex added, Edutech Solutions will match every donation made to the new foundation tonight. Dollar for dollar. Instantly, dozens of phones were raised in the air. The head of the teachers' union shouted, 10,000 from us. 20,000 from the parents' committee, came from another corner. In minutes, the donations exceeded $300,000. With Alex's match, we had raised over $500,000 in addition to the core fund. Brooke stood frozen, watching her brilliant future turn to dust. All because she had just skimmed a contract. This isn't over, she said weakly. There will be legal consequences. You're right, Alex agreed. Your law firm will surely want to discuss how their senior associate missed key clauses in a contract, costing their client $5 million. There will indeed be legal consequences for that. Her phone rang again. She looked at the screen and declined the call. Mrs. Thorne, David Mitchell addressed me formally. Will you accept the position of founding chair of the foundation? I looked at my father, crushed and defeated, and then at Alex, who had defended me without a moment's doubt in my strength. I accept. Brooke's phone was ringing off the hook. Finally, she answered. Yes, Mr. Harris. Her voice was barely audible. Yes, sir. The live stream, I understand. Tomorrow morning. Yes, sir. She hung up, her hands trembling. They want to discuss damage control, she said, stunned. Our firm's biggest client in the education sector saw the whole thing live. They're reviewing our contract. What did you expect? Mrs. Davis asked gently from our table. You didn't just insult Jenna. You insulted an entire profession. Teachers are also parents. They're clients. They're voters. The reality seemed to be just sinking in for her. We'll fix this, Catherine intervened, grabbing her daughter's arm. We'll issue a press release. Say your words were taken out of context. It was a live stream, Mom, Brooke said. It has over 100,000 views. Legal blogs are already writing articles with headlines like, Lawyer who missed key contract clause calls teachers losers. She looked at her phone screen and laughed hysterically. The Bar Association wants to discuss my conduct. Apparently, public insults damage the reputation of the profession. Actions have consequences, Alex noted quietly. You built your career by stepping on people. It's no surprise that others are responding in kind. This is all your fault. Catherine hissed, turning to me. If you had just known your place. Her place, Alex interrupted, is now at the head of a foundation that will genuinely help teachers, not just use them for a photo op. David Mitchell cleared his throat again, addressing my father. Eris, the board of directors will expect your resignation on Monday. Given everything that has happened, your continued involvement with the foundation is, I think, inappropriate. My father was silent. He just sat there, staring into space, looking as if he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. You know, I said quietly. I never wanted any of this. I just wanted to be seen. I wanted you to be proud of what I do. I was proud, he said hoarsely. I wanted more for you. More than changing children's lives for the better. More than being adored by 28 students. More than doing something real. I shook my head. That's not more, Dad. It's just different. And different doesn't mean worse. Brooke's phone rang again. Another client was terminating their contract. Another consequence. By the time we left the ballroom, the video of our family dinner had gone viral. 2 million views. The hashtag Teachers Deserve Respect was trending nationally. My phone was blowing up with messages of support from former students, colleagues, and parents. The internet never forgets, Alex said as we sat in the car, looking at the screen. The fallout was swift and brutal. Screenshots of Catherine calling my profession a disappointment became memes. And by morning, Brooke's phrase, some are born for great things, and others are just meant to teach, was on posters outside the Sterling and Reed office. My father's reputation, built over 30 years, crumbled overnight. The headmaster of an academy who doesn't value teachers. An educator who considers pedagogy second-rate. The irony was devastating. 3 days later, the Board of Trustees issued an official statement. In light of recent events, Dr. Eris Thorne has voluntarily decided to take an accelerated retirement, effective immediately. Voluntarily. We all knew what that meant. Within a month, Catherine and Brooke moved to New Jersey. Brooke's career path at Sterling and Reed was destroyed. She took a job at a small real estate firm. No more high-profile cases or prestigious clients. And the first line about Yale Law School disappeared from her online profile. But the wave of positivity that rose from that evening drowned out all the negativity. Teachers from all over the country sent me their stories. Parents thanked me for speaking up. In its first week, the Jenna Thorne Foundation received over 50 offers of corporate sponsorship. Major companies wanted their names associated with respect for educators, not disdain. You know what the ultimate irony is? I said to Alex one evening as we were reviewing applications. My father spent 30 years building his legacy in education, and in the end, he'll be remembered as the man who didn't respect teachers. He made his own choice, Alex said simply. Every time he put prestige above purpose. And choices always have consequences. A month later, we held the first board meeting for our foundation. Seated around the table were David Mitchell, 5 experienced educators, 2 parents, and me. No lawyers, no businessmen, unless they had also worked in schools. Just people who understood that teaching is a calling. We gathered at that same table, number 8, in the very same ballroom. From the back corner to the boardroom, Mrs. Davis said with a smile. "We've come a long way." "No," I corrected her. "From the classroom to the boardroom. That's the journey that really matters." 6 weeks after that night, my father called me. I had been expecting it. Catherine had left him and moved to New Jersey to be closer to Brooke. "This house is too big for one person," he said. The silence is deafening. "Jenna, we need to talk." "We are talking." "No, in person." "Please," his voice sounded older, broken. "I need to apologize." "Are you really sorry? Or do you just need forgiveness to try and salvage what's left of your reputation?" There was a long pause. "There's a steel in you now." "No, Dad. There's clarity. It's not the same thing." "I was wrong," he finally said. "I see that now." "What exactly was wrong? Be specific." Another pause. I could almost hear him wrestling with himself. I shouldn't have given Brooke your seat. And put you at the back. And he faltered, and then his tone changed again. "Jenna, please, you've made your point. You've destroyed everything. My reputation, my party, my marriage." "I didn't destroy anything," I interrupted. "You did. Every choice you made led you to this point. I just stopped being your shield from the consequences. But I'm your father. Doesn't that mean anything?" "It used to mean everything to me. But what about you? Was I your daughter when you forgot my birthday 2 years in a row? When you missed my Teacher of the Year award ceremony for Catherine's book club? That's not fair. When you introduced Brooke to everyone as the daughter to be proud of, and called my career a disappointment, was I your daughter then?" The line went silent. Years of hurt, compressed into a few seconds. "What do you want from me?" he finally asked. "Nothing. That's the whole point. I don't need anything from you anymore. So this is it? You're cutting me out of your life?" "I'm setting boundaries. If you want a relationship with me, here are my terms: 6 months of family therapy, a public apology to the teaching community, and a genuine attempt to understand why your actions were wrong. Not their consequences, but the harm you caused." "That's absurd. I'm not going to therapy like some." "Then we have nothing more to talk about. The choice is yours, Dad. As always." "You've changed," he said bitterly. "It was Alex who turned you against me." "No, Dad. Alex showed me I deserve respect. You showed me you would never give it to me. Those are 2 different things." I calmly hung up the phone. No anger, no triumphant joy. Just quiet. He didn't call back. He didn't accept my terms. He made his choice again. And for the first time in my life, I was completely at peace with it. His approval was no longer my measure of success. 6 months later, the Jenna Thorne Foundation had already awarded 127 grants to teachers pursuing further education and funded materials for 89 classrooms. But I was still teaching my 3rd grade class at PS 118. "Why don't you quit?" a reporter asked me once. "You're running a multi-million-dollar foundation now." "Because I'm a teacher," I answered simply. "How can I help teachers if I stop being one of them?" Alex and I didn't change anything about our lives. We still lived in our modest apartment, he still drove his old Honda. The real change happened inside me. I became more confident, learned to say no without guilt, and to clearly defend my boundaries. Mrs. Thorne. Jake, my former student with dyslexia who was now in 5th grade, caught up with me in the hallway one day. I got moved up to the advanced reading group. "Jake, that's amazing. My mom says it's because you taught me that different doesn't mean worse. Just different." Different doesn't mean worse. My student's words were my redemption. Alex and I grew even closer. I now understood that his secret wasn't a deception, but a protection. He wanted me to be loved for myself, not for his resources. Do you regret anything? I asked him one day as we were reviewing foundation applications. Only one thing, he replied. That I didn't step in sooner. You stepped in when it mattered most. We had been trying for a baby for 2 years, but with the constant stress, nothing had happened. Now, with peace in my life, everything changed. The test showed 2 lines. A teacher's baby, Alex said, placing a hand on my stomach. Those kids change the world. Every child changes the world, I corrected him. Teachers just help them realize it. My father never accepted my terms. No therapy, no apology. Catherine still sends the occasional angry email, which I direct to my spam folder. And Brooke, having left law, now runs an Instagram blog about harmony and balance. But I had my 28 students. A husband who saw my true worth. A foundation that helped thousands of teachers. And a child on the way. My different path hadn't been worse. It had been everything. I realize now that on that night, I wasn't looking for justice. I was looking for validation. And the most important lesson I learned is that validation doesn't come from the outside. It's born within. Your worth isn't something others bestow upon you. It's something no one can take away. My whole life, I saw myself through my family's eyes, trying to fit into their definition of success. But nurturing children is just as valuable a capital as financial capital. And building something with soul is just as worthy as building a career. The biggest battle I won wasn't with my father. It was with the voice in my own head that whispered I wasn't good enough, because I chose my path, not theirs. Alex wasn't my savior that night. He was a catalyst. He didn't give me anything new. He just helped me see what was already there, that my work is important, my choice is valid, and that changing the life of even one child is just as impactful as closing a multi-million-dollar deal. Our foundation has grown to an incredible size, but do you know what I'm most proud of? Last week, one of my former students became a teacher herself. She told me, "Mrs. Thorne, you're the one who showed me that teaching is a superpower." And it's true. Every teacher listening to this right now, you have a superpower. You are shaping the future. You catch children when they fall and teach them how to fly. There is nothing ordinary about that. It is extraordinary. My father and I haven't spoken in 8 months. Maybe we never will again. But I've learned that family isn't about blood. It's about respect. It's the people who see your value even when you doubt it yourself. It's a husband who builds an empire to prove the importance of your work. It's students who remember you 10 years later. For anyone in a similar situation, remember this: someone else's inability to see your worth does not make you any less valuable. Set your boundaries with love, but defend them with firmness. You deserve to be valued, not just tolerated. You deserve respect for the path you have chosen. Especially if that path is one of service to others. Sometimes, if you're very lucky, life gives you someone like Alex. Someone who sees you, values you, and when necessary, is ready to tell the whole world about your worth. But even if you don't have that person, even if you're standing alone at table 8 while everyone else is at the head table, remember, your significance is not determined by the seat you're assigned. Never. Thank you so much for listening. If my story resonated with you, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss new ones.